All right, good morning, everybody. We are looking at a market that was just turned upside down this morning. So we had, of course, the mega meta flop yesterday, and then this morning we had GDP, and everything sent the market rolling lower. It's about 400 points down on the open. That spelled lots of opportunity for us, but in terms of the morning gaps, it's not what you think it would be because there's so many gaps that it's hard to filter, and there's so much volatility that it's hard to get on the right side of those. So some of the gap trades that we took this morning just wound up getting us in and scratching us right back out again. But the good trade, of course, was in Meta. So Meta was very predictable, lots of program trading going on around that thing. We'll take a look at that in a second. First, let's look at those triple Qs and talk about the strategy for the QQQ and the NQ going into the rest of the session. Let's go to the charts. Here you see it. We've got a morning that is going to be a morning to remember. We had this gap lower, and this was just obscene in terms of what it was doing to the thinking that a lot of people had going on about, do you fade it? Do you count on this thing to keep moving lower? Is this a game changer? GDP was really kind of a disaster, and of course the Meta announcement yesterday was really shaving a lot. I mean, it pulled $200 billion off the market cap of that stock in just a few minutes. And, as you look at something like this, it's hard to make sense out of, what to do with this guy right down here. But those of you who have been to the boot camp, those of you who have been through the Super Vol Sunday stuff, the volatility training, what you know is there is a known probability when you make this particular excursion below S2, there's a known probability that you're going to make an excursion back up and at least get into the range between S2 and S1. This is S1 up here. And that's exactly what happened right off the opening bell. So off the open, the gap fade that was, one to remember was on the triple Qs because we had a 77% chance that we were going to make a move back up into that black pivot line at 421.28. Now, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage, of course, to go and fade something that big right off the opening bell, because if it goes against you, boy, howdy, you're thinking it's, this is very likely going to be, a day I'm not going to enjoy very much. But take a look here, right? You've got a standard 1, 2, 3 kind of a setup going on these dips down. So if you're a Baltimore chop fan, if you follow that trade when we do it in the morning, the 2SD opening gaps, then what you knew looking at this trade was that, it's still just on the other side of a pivot. That keeps it in the range that we look for or tend to look for in terms of tradability. It's set up in a very high probability situation, and it's giving us that classic 1, 2, 3 kind of a pullback entry. Everything was in place, made for a really good setup. For the rest of the session, it's going to be hard to get this thing trading in a box again, right? So this is going to look something like it did yesterday. It's going to be hard to get those, narrow sideways consolidations boxed up. If we do, great. If we don't, then what we want to look for instead are very, very orderly pullbacks, geometric trading like we had this morning, right? Where you get moves that are off of these threshold levels. And, hopefully over the rest of the session, what we're going to see is that we probably are going to get, pop up into here and then maybe a move back down into this area right here. And then all of the confluence that we see happening in terms of these volume by price thresholds and, the 2 standard deviation excursion from your mean and the proximity to 421.28, right? That everything is going to come together, and, that includes this guy right here, probably moving up into that same threshold level before we start looking at entries on it. So there's lots to think about with the triple Qs and lots of things to do, lots of things to avoid. We can look at also our faves from this morning, and this was Meta. So you can see Meta over here. I've got it broken down into 2 time frames. This was useful today. So usually we don't look at 1-minute charts at all. They're very noisy. They can distract your attention. If things aren't moving a lot, the noise can chop you in and out of positions. in a way that makes it very difficult to figure out if you're doing the right thing or if you're not, getting yourself in front of a moving train. But today it was actually helpful because it took some really big 5-minute volatility and gave you almost like a tick chart of what was going on in Meta. And over the course of the session, this has given us lots of confirmation in both the 5-minute and the 1-minute time frame. So when we had that initial move that consolidated right in here, right around that 427.17 threshold there, the pullbacks to that line and down below right into here gave us a nice entry opportunity. There was a live trade called in our first hour trading pit this morning. It was worth $7. So $7 per share traded. Not saying you should go out and trade 1,000 shares of Meta. If you did, good for you. If you didn't, it's a big mover. And, we had people in there who were doing 50 shares who were just thrilled that, that they caught a ride like that, they caught a move like that. There is no reason to worry about the size of the position. Just worry about getting the trade right. And over the course of the session here, you can see it has been very geometric. It's come back into the threshold levels that we anticipate, and I think it's going to continue to do that. So if going into the next part of the session, we start seeing pulls that come into 437.22 here, I'm going to look at that as an opportunity for an entry, and then I am certainly looking at these VWAPs down here. You can see right there, and right here, we've got some VWAPs that are based on the trends. Those are anchored VWAPs. Tell us that if we get a move back down into this 382 fib ratio or into the 50% fib ratio, so either down to 434.52 or down to 430.84, that then what we would expect to see is, on the higher level move, if it comes back down into here, a retest of, this high right here. And if it gets down into the lower level, then I'd be looking for a move from 430.84 up into 434.52. All right, so that is a mouthful for sure, but I think that Meta is kind of the place to focus today. I'm also looking at Netflix. Netflix, if you keep an eye on that pivot line, right, that we're talking 561.11 on the pivot there. These are all pricey stocks today. It's just these are the ones that are putting in the nicest trend moves. Makes it easier to figure out, what the strategy is. Just going to lower the share size and not worry about the dollar value of the stock itself. Drag the share size down, takes you away from the added risk and puts you in front of the added benefit of the volatility. Tesla on the long side, Netflix on the long side. Those are the two that I'm focused on in terms of trend strength because of where they've been and what they're doing. They opened in line, continued higher in the case of Tesla, opened just a little bit lower on Netflix, and have had an uptrending day all day long. So, when you see a move lower like this on an open and then, the entire day is just riding up the trend line like that, that says that moves back down into the pivot line are going to be a good place to potentially get long. And as for the rest of them, I'm sort of staying shy of too many entries. I think that focusing on the longs on NVIDIA, the longs on Netflix, and the longs on Tesla gives us lots of long side opportunity. And then on Meta, we're just looking for pullbacks back down into that range, and hopefully the opportunity to catch some more inflections as it does this geometric trading that it's been doing all morning. Okay, so that's a lot, I know. So that's more than we're usually doing with the Mag 7 stocks or really focused on with those. But I think that's where the opportunity is today. So that's where I'm going to be. If you have any questions, you know how to get to me, and I will see you tomorrow for some Friday trading. Friday's not my favorite day of the week. Monday is definitely not my favorite day of the week, but I like this stuff in the middle quite a bit. All right, have a great day.